Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to start with the general chemistry course, and the first lesson in my view is the periodic table. And you need this, like the language of chemistry is first embedded in knowing the periodic table. And there's a pattern, like you have to memorize it, not all the way through, but at least 50% of the elements you need to know them. There are 118 elements in the periodic table. Let me just take up this one here. So this is the periodic table. You could see that the first element, hydrogen, up here, all the way to UUO, which is from here to here, 113 to 118. They are made up elements. So chemists actually use lab spaces to actually make these elements, and they're very unstable. But all of these elements make up to 118, and these 118 elements, you have to memorize at least 50% of them or 60% of them to be very familiar. So we're going to do this on 3 stages. The first thing that we need to know about periodic table is that there are 3 main categories of elements. Okay, so there are main group elements. This one is group 1 here, this one is group 2, and then there is a whole bunch of elements right from here to here that we call transition metal. There are 10 columns of transition metals, and we will talk about them later on. They're all metals though. So group 1, group 2, main groups, and then group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6, group 7, and group 8. So these are the 8 main groups, like group 1 and 2 here, isolated in this left side, and group 3 all the way to 8 isolated on the other part of and the metal, transition metal, sandwiched between them. So main group elements is very important. Much that you learn in chemistry, whether it's organic or inorganic, are going to be mostly about the main chemistry elements. Also, when you do inorganic, you learn a little bit about the transition metals. Okay, and there we have in between 57 to 71. Now I have a grid here. It's a grid system, and I'm going to write it down. But now that we could actually, I could hold it and I could show you from 57 to 71, and from 89 to 103. It's going to be, there's a bunch of elements in between these two numbers, like these are the atomic numbers, and these are the number of protons. So we start with 1 proton giving you hydrogen, and we actually add protons until we get to 118 proton to give us this last element in the periodic table. So here from element number 57 with 57 protons to 71, there's a bunch of elements. We call them lanthanides. And also we have another group here from 89 to 103. We call it actinides. So lanthanides and actinides here, as you can see them here, there are 14. So any periodic table that you look, they actually list them up down below, because it's going to be so awkward to have a periodic table that just like a train or a bus. You could imagine that if we sandwich this, the lanthanides and actinides right here, then you would have another big gap here, and I would have to actually have a very big train to show you the whole periodic table. Okay, so there are 3 groups, and that's what I'm going to, that's the first lesson. So we have the first and second group. These are the main group elements, and actually designated with an A, which means they are the main groups. Okay, B means transition metals, and we have lanthanides and actinides that are we call them F metals or rare earth metals. Okay, these are very expensive, very rare elements that if you found a little bit of them, that would be very precious. One of them is uranium here. So there are 3 groups, main group elements with 8 groups, group 1 and 2 here, and group 3 all the way to 8 here, and then transition metals with 10 group of them, actually sandwiched between the main elements, and then group the lanthanides and actinides that have 14 columns or 14, so to speak, groups in them, and we actually have called them rare elements, and there's less we know about them, and there's actually less we have to do with them. So as I'm going to show you my way how you're going to memorize, let's first start with a periodic table that has this sort of things in it. Okay, so that's the one that you're going to actually do. I'm going to actually use my grid here to show you, and it's going to be very useful thing. Periodic tables, you could actually print them out real easy, or best way to practice when you're just a beginner is to actually work out the grid that I'm going to show you in real time here soon, and that's what I'm going to do. So let's go on real quick and show the first 17 elements that you need to know, okay? So the first 17 elements, if I get my marker, my green marker, I start from here, hydrogen, all the way to potassium, and then group 2, just 3 elements, 2 elements in group 3, main group, and then 1 element in each group, 4, 5, 6, and then group 7, because it's important, because these we call halogens, group 7. These are very reactive, so you remember, memorize 3 of them here. And then noble gases, group 8, they are literally unreactive, reluctant to react. That's what we call them, why we call them noble gases, and you need to memorize 2. Okay, so wrap it up here with the 17 elements you're going to actually memorize. Okay, those are the 17s that you're going to memorize. Okay, no more than this. So just from the main group elements. Okay, let's get into it one more time. I apologize. So here, hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, 4 here, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, 3 in group 2. Then you move on to group 3 and you just memorize boron and aluminum, and then carbon, nitrogen, oxygen in the group 4 to group 6. And then in group 7, which is halogens, they're very reactive, so you do fullerene, choline, bromine, and then noble gases, which they are very reluctant to react when you do helium and neon. Okay, so you need to know the symbol and the name. Okay, that's what you need to know. That would constituents actually 14% of the elements that we need to know. Okay, I'm going to show you real quick that what we're going to do as you move on. So for the first week of the chemistry class, or for the first 2 weeks, you're going to do this. Then these 17, so to speak, elements. Then in week 3 and week 4, you're going to extend your scale, and you're going to do more elements. Okay, what kind of elements we do more? Let me just fix this real quick here. Okay, and we go here on the periodic table one more time, and I add here strontium and barium to the group 2 that you need to memorize. I add here tin, which is SN, and PB, which is plumum. And PB, by the way, comes from plumbing, because ancient Greeks used to actually do plumbing with the PB. So that's the name plumbing, which means actually piping back then was being used with this lead element. So lead today had that name plumbing tagged to it, because ancient Romans was doing like that. Why we don't do it today? Because we have found that lead is a little bit toxic. So these are the 2 that I have added in group 4, and then group 5 you add 1 more. You do phosphorus and also sulfur in group 6. And you add 1 more here, iodine, in group 7, and you add a bunch of them, like 3 more into the noble gases, like you do argon, krypton, and xenon. Also here in the transition metals, you do cobalt and copper, and also gold. So gold is a precious metal. Copper is the one that actually is being recognized first. Oh, my bad. I have to actually do ferrous, which is iron. Okay, not cobalt. So you just do this one, guys. I have done it wrong here. So in this version, I have to correct this. So iron instead of cobalt, and then uranium is the one that we make atomic bombs with. So that's the important things that you need to know: actinide and lantanides. This is the only one that in your second step you're going to memorize 1 from the actinide, lantanide series, and then from the transition metals, the 3 that is iron, copper, and gold. Iron and copper being the first metals that being used by early men, and then gold is because it's expensive. Everybody knows that. Okay, so this is the 32 elements that makes up to 27% of our periodic table. And then we move on the 6th and 7th week of the semester. You could actually expand your knowledge to doing all the metals that I have actually done this here for. Okay, let me just grab my orange marker. So you start from helium right here. My bad. From hydrogen right here. Helium is the other one that I have already marked. All the way to francium. So group 1, the whole main group you're going to memorize. The whole second group, the whole, not the whole, but until thallium, because these are not actually, these are, some of them are synthesized, some of them are radioactive. That it means if they're synthesized, it means they're very unstable. If they're radioactive, it also means they are not stable, so they're going to decompose with time. Okay, they're going to actually decompose to other elements with, or elements of the other kind with types of different types of radiations. Okay, so we don't actually memorize them. So from boron to thallium, so we have added gallium, indium, thallium. Okay, and then here all the way to plumbum, nothing more. On group 5 we're going to add arsenic, antimony, which is Sp, and then bismuth, which is Bi. And on group 6 I'm going to add selenium, that is Se, and tellurium, that is Te. We don't do this one because that is radioactive. Also on the halogens, you don't need to do astatine, that's radioactive. Also on here, we do radon as the, so radon is the last noble gas that you're going to do. On the transition metals, we're going to actually expand our depository to titanium, chromium, cobalt, and nickel. Cobalt and nickel, both of them actually are constituents of Earth's core. Okay, so they're important. Precious metals, these group that you could see here, the squares, palladium, platinum, and silver and gold. Okay, silver is called Ag Argentinum because it was first discovered in somewhere in Argentina. That's why the name Ag tags to it. Okay, so that's these precious metals, palladium, platinum, Ag, and Au. They're expensive and they are also kind of a noble because they don't want to react. Okay, that's what you have platinum in implants for bones in body because it doesn't want to react. Hg is the only metal element that is liquid, so you're gonna actually memorize it. Mercury is the metal that you actually also see with a silver shine in thermometers, mercury thermometers. It's also toxic. Tungsten, every light bulb that you see, not these LED bulbs, but the previous ones that has a wire mesh in them, have this element tungsten, and that's W, that stands for wolfram. That's another name for tungsten. Okay, the first elements that start the lanthanide and actinide series, actually lantanium and actinium, they are the very start of the of these lanthanides and actinides, but they themselves are transition metals. So you also do lanthanum and actinium, and then the cerium and thorium, the first real lanthanide and actinide. Okay, cerium is the one that they actually made very precise clocks. I believe, I don't know if it's in UK or in the US center, but there's a most precise clock of the world that is actually made because of the properties of cerium that could actually do a very very precise measuring of time. Nd, neodymium, is actually the one that they make accurate lasers, which, and uranium we also talked about. So these make 61 elements and 51% of the periodic table. So that's the periodic table that we're going to actually memorize. Now all the elements in the main groups, like for group 1 and group 2, and then for group 3 we just do until the 6th period. Okay, there are 7 periods in the periodic table. That's what we call the periodic. It's period 1, period 2, period 3, all the way to period 7. Okay, and from period 2 here is period 1 is the one on the top. It has hydrogen and helium in it, and period 2 all the way to period 7 have the main elements, 8 main elements in each period. Okay, because it has 8 columns in period 2 to period 7. So you just do to period 6, and then the same thing for group 4, group 5 until bismuth. Group thick, you just do until Trillium, because polonium again gets radioactive. Also the same thing for group 7. You just don't memorize astatine, it's radioactive, and you just do iodine. And then for the noble gases, you again do radon. Radon is a little bit radioactive, but we need it, okay? So you memorize all this instead of this, like the last one, the period 7th one, okay? And then we already talked about the transition metals. You need to know titanium, you need to know chromium, you need to know iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc. You need to know mercury. You need to know these 4 precious metals: palladium, platinum, and Ag, which is silver and gold. Iridium, it's important to know. Iridium is the element of dinosaurs. Okay, we'll talk about it later on, but just memorize this one. Iridium is the one that actually is linked to dinosaurs, so it's important to know it. Wolfram is the one that is used in lamps. We kind of need to know it. And then also here we need to know lanthanide and actinide. That's the first element in this transition metal that starts the lanthanide and actinide series. The first real lanthanide and actinide is cerium and thorium. We talked about cerium on and on. Nd is neodymium. They use it in laser, and uranium is the one that you also need to know because they do atomic bombs. Or uranium is the first most important radioactive element that you need to know about. Okay, so now I'm going to go and use my grid work, and that's the patchwork that you're going to need if you're going to actually make a periodic table. Now remember, I talked about these 3 different things that you're going to do with this. I'm going to take 3 different colors. Let me see if I could get my other color here. Okay, orange. I should have also a green. Yeah, I have it here, right here. Okay, so I start with my this color, like the pink one, and I'm trying to do the first 17 that I'm going to use. Okay, so here's the grid. And the good rewarding part about it is that you are going to be able to do one of this. If you kind of get to grid, it's easy to get them, and you could actually maximize it and then print it out and then work with it to work out, actually carve out your own periodic table. Okay, so I start here. Let me just check this one more time. So I'm going to let this down a little bit and then say, okay, on the top, I'm not going to use this top column here. So I start by using hydrogen from here, and then I just get rid of this top row here. Okay, that's it. I don't need this. Also, I don't need this. So I can get rid of it. And then I need, the first thing that I'm going to need is which elements I'm going to put down here. Okay, first is my hydrogen. Okay, so I use green to do hydrogen. I also need to know lithium, Li, sodium, Na, and I think potassium. Yep, that's the potassium. That's group 1, the 4 that I need to know about group 1. Group 2 is beryllium, magnesium, calcium. Beryllium starts here because period 1 has only 2 elements, okay? So I go here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18. And I'm going to use this 18th row. Let me just count one more time. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, and this is my helium. Okay, so I'm going to actually not use this last line as well. Let's see if I can avoid getting these little beakers to actually spill all over. So that's helium, He. And period 2 would have 8 elements. Okay, so lithium, beryllium, it starts from here. Beryllium, Be, magnesium, Mg, and calcium, Ca. These are the 3 that I need to know on. Let me just do this a little bit better. because I don't have a handy access to the ones on the top, because I'm going to let you see all of those very well. Okay, it's kind of hard. And then you go to the third group. Okay, so I just left on. If you see here, I don't need all this, because from period 4, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, this is where the transition metal starts. Okay, so I don't need all this. So I'm going to get rid of those. And group 8 on here, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So 3 starts here. So I also don't need all this. So I could actually get a chunk that is none here. Okay, these are going to be my transition metals. And I have this. And down here, I need only 2 rows to do my $14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so my 14 lanthanides and actinides. Okay, so that's my periodic table. I hope you could see that if I just move it a little bit top so you could see all the way, all of those elements in. I want to avoid the video being so long, so I'm just going to move on real fast here. So let's go to here. Boron is the one that I need to know here. And aluminum as well. Now just one element here, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, okay? And that's all. That's all you need to know. On group 7, you need to know chlorine, bromine as well. Chlorine is Cl, bromine is Br, and neon is the last one that you need to know. So these are the 17s, I believe. I don't know if I count them correctly, but 17 would be about 14% of the periodic table. Okay, that's the first 2 weeks. Let's add a little bit in the second week. What we add in the second week is going to be also interesting. Let's try to talk about that real quick. So you add to group 1, none. That's until potassium, you do none here. And you add a strontium, Sr, and barium. Okay? Ba and Sr. Also, you add to groups to group 4. You add Sn, which is here, tin, and lead, Pb. Okay. You also add phosphorus and sulfur in group 5 here below nitrogen, and sulfur below oxygen. And also you add iodine here to complete your group 7 sort of. And then you actually add a bunch of noble gases, argon, krypton, xenon, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, that's all. So that's what I actually extend in my, I hope you could see it. That's the, my space is a little bit small. That's all my table have. And I hope you could see it well. So let's go on and add the 3 transition metals. That's ferrous, and that's D6, I believe. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's Fe. Iron. And then, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you should have 10 of them. Let me just add one more here real quick. I don't know why we didn't count it correctly, but let's just add one more here. Okay, so it makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Fe would just be here. That's Fe. And let me just recover my space real quick. I did a bad count on the very beginning. Instead of the 18, that was the whole thing that I did. I actually did it wrong. So now it's correct with another column added, because there are 10 columns in the D transition metals. Also, you need to know about copper, which is here, Cu, and also gold, which is here, Au. And also uranium is down here in this third position. That's all that you need to know in the second week. And that makes, with the green ones that we already know of, that makes around 32 elements. And that is about 27% of the periodic table. So for the last week, we're going to upgrade ourselves and we're going to actually learn a little bit more on elements, and that's all the main group elements for the first column and second column. So you're going to add all the way back to francium here. Rubidium, Rb, cesium, and Fr, Cs, and francium Fr. Also strontium, barium, and you add Ra, radium. Francium and radium are violently reactive. They are also radioactive, but we're going to learn them no matter what. Okay, so the whole seven elements in the seventh period, from period 1 to period 7 in group 1, and from period 2 to period 7 in group 2, and then we move on. For group 3, we add we have boron, aluminium already. We add gallium, Ga, indium, In, and thallium, Tl. Thallium is the last one. We don't do the next one, which is radioactive. Okay. So boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, thallium. Oh, and I have done one bad thing here. Let me just see if I could fix it real quick. Because see, here, the beryllium, where I start beryllium, I have to start boron from there. Okay, let me just fix that real quick, real fast. Add iodine, also sulfur, also phosphorus, and also carbon, Sn and Pb. That's that. Okay, now I think I'm good. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, so that's this. And then you add to group, let's go on to group 3. We had boron and aluminium already. I add gallium, indium, thallium, and I don't do the last one. Also from period 2 here, I actually need to memorize the 2 more between the gap. So carbon, silicium, Si, and germanium, Ge. And then group 5 all the way to arsenic, antimony. Let's see. I believe you also did bismuth. Yes. So you do bismuth here. Also, you do selenium and tellurium. And to your noble gases, you do radon, Ra. Okay, so that's all that you do. And then you also need to add a bunch of more transition metals. You do titanium right here. Titanium is right here. You do lantanium and actinium, La, and actinium, Ac, here. You do cerium and thorium here, and you do Nd here. That was the important one for the laser. Wolfram is right here. You do also chromium here, wolfram here, and also iridium is the one that is important for the dinosaurs, the discovery of when the dinosaurs all died out. Okay, so that's iridium right here. Also on the top you do cobalt, Ni, and zinc. So zinc, nickel, and cobalt all the way on the top row. And then the precious metals, that's not only Au, you have to do Ag, you have to do Pd, palladium, and platinum, Pt. PD, and PD. So these four are the ones that are precious, non-reacting ones. Okay, and also the only metal that is liquid, that is Hg, mercury. Okay, so these are the whole bunch of elements that makes, actually, I think they make 61 elements and 51% of the periodic table. So if you do this by the end of the 6th week, whenever you see a periodic table, it would be your friend rather than your enemy. Okay, so you would be friend with the periodic table, and it is very useful tool. Chemistry is very much about periodic table, and the video went very lengthy, so we will talk about periodic table one more time, and then we will also talk about molecules or ions that you need to know about. I want to wrap it up here, and